The first time I heard it, I thought the house was settling. Then the sound came again, slow and deliberate, from beneath my bed, as if something below the floor had just learned my name and was testing how it felt in its mouth. I froze, listening to the silence after it stopped. The old house on the edge of the woods had always groaned and whispered, but this was different. This was breathing. Deep, wet, patient breathing, rising through the cracks in the wood like something trapped and hungry. My wife, Elena, said I was exhausted from the move. She smiled too quickly, the way people do when they want fear to stay polite. But when I looked at her, I saw she was staring at the hallway behind me, not at my face, and she whispered, "Don't turn around." I turned anyway. Nothing was there. Just the hallway, the wallpaper peeling in strips, and the framed family photos left by the previous owners. But one picture had changed. In the glass reflection, something stood behind us, tall and bent, with a face too close to human. When I looked back, the reflection was gone. Elena had gone pale. She grabbed my arm and said the house had a basement, though the realtor swore it didn't. We searched every room until we found the hidden door under the pantry, nailed shut from the inside. The nails were fresh. Not rusted, not old. Fresh, as if someone had sealed it recently. I pried one loose and heard a sound from below, a soft scraping, like fingernails dragging across stone. Then, from the darkness under the pantry, a voice answered in my son's voice. We didn't have a son. We had never had a son. Elena stumbled backward, covering her mouth, and I felt the room tilt around me. The voice came again, clearer this time, calling me Dad in a tone so perfect it made my skin crawl. I slammed the hatch shut and drove a chair over it. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the chair legs began to tremble. Something below pressed upward with slow, testing force, as if it were smiling in the dark and enjoying how little it had to do. That night, we slept in the living room with every light on. I kept hearing footsteps overhead, though the attic was empty. At 3:17 a.m., Elena shook me awake and pointed at the wall. Wet handprints were appearing one by one, moving toward us. The prints were too large for any human hand. They spread across the wallpaper, then stopped beside the mirror. In the glass, I saw a shape crouched behind us, its head tilted like it was listening. When I spun around, the room was empty, but the mirror kept watching. I smashed the mirror with a lamp. The glass burst outward, and something inside it screamed. Not Elena, not me, but something thin and furious, trapped behind the reflection. The sound ended only when the house went silent in a way that felt impossible, like the world had stopped blinking. We found the old owner's journal in a drawer beneath the sink. The pages were swollen with damp, but the handwriting was clear. He wrote about a thing under the house, something that had lived there before the foundation, before the road, before the town itself. According to the journal, the creature did not hunt by sight. It hunted by imitation. It learned voices, copied footsteps, borrowed memories, and wore grief like a mask. The final entry ended mid-sentence, with one line repeated over and over. It is almost ready to come upstairs. Elena started crying then, not from fear, but recognition. She said the house smelled like her childhood basement, the one she had never spoken about. Before I could ask why, we heard a child laughing from below the pantry, soft and wet and impossibly close. The laugh stopped. Then came a knock from under the floor. 3 slow taps. A pause. 3 more. It was not random. It was answering us, like a code. Elena whispered that her father used to knock that way when he came home drunk, and I understood too late why she was shaking. We heard the pantry door creak open by itself. Cold air spilled into the kitchen, carrying the smell of mud and rot. From the darkness below, something began climbing, not fast, not frantic, but with the confidence of a guest who had been invited long ago. I grabbed the fireplace poker and stood between Elena and the hatch. A hand appeared first, pale and slick, with too many joints. Then a shoulder. Then a face, or what passed for one, smooth and unfinished, as if it had been sculpted from wet clay and bad intentions. It looked at me with eyes that were almost mine. That was the worst part. Not the teeth, not the smell, not the way its skin seemed to ripple. It was the familiarity, the awful certainty that it had been studying me for longer than I had lived there. Elena screamed, and the creature flinched as if the sound hurt it. Then it smiled. I had never seen anything smile like that, with so much patience. It backed into the pantry, and from below came a chorus of voices, all speaking in our own tones, all saying, "Come down." We ran, not outside, because the front door was locked from the other side. We ran upstairs, where the hallway had become longer than the house should allow. Every door we passed opened onto darkness, and from each room came a different version of our voices begging us to stop. At the end of the hall was the nursery. We had never seen it before. The door stood open, and inside was a crib rocking gently in the dark. Something small sat inside, wrapped in a blanket, humming the lullaby Elena's mother used to sing before she died. Elena stepped forward before I could stop her. She said she knew that song. Her voice broke on the last word. The bundle in the crib shifted, and a tiny hand reached out, not toward her, but toward the wall, where fresh cracks were spreading like veins. The cracks widened. Behind the plaster was not wood, not stone, but a black, breathing tunnel. The house had a throat. We heard it swallow. Then the walls began to pulse, and I realized the creature was not under the house at all. The house was inside it. The floor lurched. The crib tipped over. Elena fell to her knees, clutching her head as if hearing something I could not. Then she looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said, "It knows what you did in the basement when you were a child." I had never told her. I had buried that memory so deep I believed it was gone. But the creature had found it, and now it was wearing my shame like a second skin. From below the floor came my own voice, young and trembling, begging me not to leave it there again. The journal had one final instruction: feed it the truth, or it will feed on you forever. I knelt beside the cracked floor and spoke into the dark, confessing everything I had hidden, everything I had done, every lie I had built this life on. The house went still to listen. For a moment, I thought it worked. The breathing stopped. The walls relaxed. Then the creature laughed, and I understood the truth. It had never wanted my confession. It wanted my permission. The floor split open, and something vast began to rise, wearing the shape of my family. Elena grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the window. Outside, the yard was gone. In its place was a field of black water reflecting a sky with no stars. In the reflection, our house stood upside down, and beneath it, hundreds of faces pressed against the glassy dark. The creature emerged fully then, towering in the doorway, wearing our voices like stolen clothes. It reached for Elena first, but I saw the child in its chest, the one I had abandoned years ago, and I finally understood what it had been building all this time: a family made of hunger. I did the only thing left. I stepped into the black opening and let it take me. The house screamed, the walls collapsed, and Elena ran into the night as the creature followed my voice into the dark. By dawn, the house was gone, but sometimes, when the wind is right, it still calls her name.